And we're live. Hello and welcome, everyone. It's time for another amazing episode of IT Career in Australia. And today's topic is how to transition from software engineer to architecture roles. If you're thinking about taking the next step in your tech career, in this session, Darryn will share how he actually successfully made the shift from software engineering into architecture, including how to build your learning plan, develop the right skills, and actually demonstrate you're ready to the move. If you're aiming to grow beyond coding into high-level design and strategy roles, this discussion will give you some practical direction for your career moves. So make sure to bring your questions and don't forget to say hi in the comments, because if you're not saying hi in the comments, we don't know that you're here. So say hi in the comments and let us know if you're actually transitioning at the moment and where you're watching us from. I'm Jana Martins, if you forgot for any particular reason. And you can obviously watch me on LinkedIn or YouTube. And if you're watching me on LinkedIn, subscribe to YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, connect with me on LinkedIn, so you know the drill. And of course, if you interested in face-to-face events, make sure to join my meetup group as well. We have a lot of exciting tech working events happening across Australia, so I'll talk about it later at the end of the stream as well to give you some updates on what's coming soon. Anyway, don't forget to say hi in the comments, because otherwise it's, a bit sad if you're not saying hi. And I'll pass it on to Darryn to introduce himself, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Darryn Long. I'm currently head of architecture for a large medical organization. I've been an architect for, I'd say, around 18 years, thereabouts. I think I've come in and out of architecture, but that's where I've landed, and I think that's where I want my career to continually to go. I've done different roles. I was an engineer, like a developer. I've been a business analyst, project manager. I've taken roles as like head of cloud and director of technology, and now I'm head of architecture. And I also, in my spare time, I do a bit of volunteering for career coaching, around career coaching. So I career coach migrants and refugees all around technology to help them, get help and get a bit of a helping hand into the workforce in Australia and into their technology careers. So I love doing that, and I find that really, really fulfilling.
Thank you, Darryn. And it's really in line with what we're doing in this channel. So obviously we do help people to progress their career and help with the job search in Australia. And exciting to, have this conversation with you. We have quite a few people joining. Raul is saying hi. Kentish, Zahra, thank you guys for saying hi. And those who didn't say hi, I'm watching. I know you're watching, and I'm waiting for your hi in the comments. Okay, I guess let's dive straight into it. Obviously, you already mentioned a few things about your career. First, I would love, I guess, to tell you a little bit more of the story. How do you transition? What was, I guess, main milestone in your career? And also, I always like to ask this question, people. Did you decide that you want to be the architect in the kindergarten? Was, like every time when you're 5 years old, like adults asking you, like, who do you want to be? Like, oh, I want to be a firefighter. Oh, I want to be enterprise architect. So I guess
so
would love to know when this moment happened in your life.
It was at preschool that I thought I should be an enterprise architect, Jana. So no, I had no idea really what I was doing. Do I know what I'm doing now? I think so. I don't know, right? Does anyone know what they're really doing in their career? Yeah, hopefully they do. I studied business. Actually, I didn't do IT at university. I studied finance. I had no plan to do any IT stuff at all. It didn't really interest me. I got my first job at one of the big consulting companies, and they said, right, you are a coder, you are a developer. And I'm like, okay, I've never done it before, but I'll give it a go. And so, yeah, I learned on the job. Never coded things in my life. Never did anything. Learned everything at in the workplace. And I was like a COBOL developer, VB, all that kind of like old-fashioned technology. Showing my age here, but that's where I started as an engineer. And then I think a big thing at that time. So the big thing now is AI. The big thing at that time was ERP. So these are things like SAP, PeopleSoft, right? They were the hot technologies that everyone wanted to do. So I was like, right, I want to do that because it looks really interesting and it's better than COBOL and the boring kind of technologies. So I pursued that, and I did moved into ERPs and predominantly I think called PeopleSoft, which kind of it's still around, but it doesn't really exist anymore. And I specialized in that. And I did that, and I kind of just did it, and I didn't really have a thought about where I want my career to go. I just wanted to do this technology, and it's a great technology, and I loved it. And I think what happened is PeopleSoft got taken over by Oracle, and they kind of said that they were going to, slowly deprecate it, and it was not going to be like a technology that was going to be around. And it is around, but it's kind of not really used that much anymore. So at that point, I thought, well, I gotta do something else, right? So what should I do? And I thought, I'd worked with some architects on some of the projects, and I thought that is something that interests me. That's something that I want to do. It looks really you get to look at all technologies. So that's when I thought, right, let's go down that path. And I kind of went from different architecture roles, solution architect, I did focused on cloud architecture because that was the hot technology at the time and no one was really doing it. So I took the opportunity and said that I'm going to go that way. And then kind of progressing into enterprise architecture, then more senior roles after that.
Would you say this sort of journey is usually the I guess the typical journey to enterprise architecture? We've been talking about it in one of our streams from here on, and there's so many I guess different pathways, and people come from business and stuff. But I guess if we take the majority, is that probably the more classic pathway to the enterprise architecture through software solution?
I think so. Most of the architects I worked with, like enterprise architects, most of them have come through this kind of dev engineer, but it's not the only way. We have a lot of business architects and they've come from different backgrounds. So there's no one way. And I think as we go forward, there's definitely no one path through, right? It's enterprise architecture is not rocket science. It's kind of very logical, and it's a methodology, and it's easy to learn. But having technical background can help, but you can be business focused as well. So it doesn't I don't feel it's necessarily this is the path you need to go, right?
Yeah. I guess would be good to know some milestones in your career, and how did you, I guess, put your learning plan together, and what sort of skills you focus on at which point?
Yeah, I think I've put here, in each step along the journey, what I picked up, what skills I picked up along the way, what technology I learned as well. So, like I started as a consultant, so I learned consulting skills straight off the bat, how to develop, and the technologies all around ERP and like COBOL and VB. But I also learned databases and reporting and integration there as well. And then as I progressed, different technologies. So I learned about data warehousing and data like ETLs and other kind of things all around the ERP kind of ecosystem. And then, you just get a bit broader in your technologies, so you get to experience a lot of different things or in this ecosystem. And then at that point, that's when I've got fairly broad experience technically, and I wanted to move into an architecture role. So what skills, what training did I need to do to get into that first solution architecture role? And I think if you go to the next one, it kind of when I transitioned from like the ERP lead into an architecture role, I definitely went and got my TOGAF certification. I did things, and I recognized that there were gaps in my knowledge. So, as a solution architect, you need to, you don't know what the solution is going to be, but you need to understand a broad range of technologies. So I had to learn. I didn't know much about networking, so I had to like uplift my knowledge around networking, cybersecurity as well. I did ITIL certification and things like that, just to elevate my knowledge in those bits where I felt I was missing. And then I think along the way, then I learned all the soft skills that are really important in an architecture role. So presentation and communication and collaboration and stakeholder management is super key. Presenting, influencing, and being like a trusted advisor, they're really important as you get more senior and as you move up the architecture kind of, I guess, ladder.
Yeah, we had the week ago. We had a big discussion about the, certification and if they actually can help you to get a job. What do you think about certification in architecture? Like, how important they are? Like, do you think that TOGAF like made a difference for you, or like any other ones? Like,
okay, I'm going to tell you two stories. Funny, slightly funny. Not funny, but the stories around certifications, and then I'll answer your question, Yana. So, I was working overseas, and I was interviewing for an architecture role, and the person interviewing me had obviously read my CV and in the interview he asked me a question around TOGAF. He goes, "What do you think about TOGAF? What's your thoughts?" And I said, and I thought to myself, I feel that's a bit of a loaded question. So my response is, it's a framework, it's a methodology, it's great. However, don't take it with a grain of salt. It's something which you need to understand, but you need to customize it and adapt it to your organization, right? Because every organization is different. So yeah, I said, it's good. It's a good starting point, but don't follow it like the gospel. And his answer was, "That's a great answer, Darren." Because he goes, and I don't know if this is true, but he says, "I was one of the founding members of TOGAF." I was like, "Oh, okay." And so he told me the story about how they founded it. And I think he said a bunch of us went to a hotel and they got really drunk and they came up with this methodology, and that's TOGAF. So he goes, "Don't take it like gospel. It's good and it's evolved now." But he said it was something that we just came up with, right? So whether or not that's a true story, I don't know, but that's what he told me in my interview. Now, in another story, I did a massive cloud program, cloud implementation, and I worked with a number of people. I worked with someone that had done all the Amazon. It was an AWS project, so they did all the AWS certifications that they could. Right, they had 5 or 7 or all of them, and that's a lot of work to get those certifications. And in the same project, I worked with a bunch of individuals that had done no certifications. Now, I must say that the people that had done no certifications knew it like no one I ever met before. They were so knew like the cloud platform, knew everything about it. Whilst the person that had done all the certifications didn't have any practical kind of knowledge and didn't really know, just knew it from a theory point of view. So she really struggled when it came to the real life on how to implement things. So my point is, certifications are important, and some places might want you to be TOGAF certified just to prove that you're an architect and you have like foundational knowledge and the jargon. But you need practical knowledge as well, right? It's not everything.
Yeah. Would you think like maybe certification is more important in the beginning, like kind of early in the career, because it's sort of, I guess, the only way you can show some interest and experience?
Definitely, yeah, I think so, and I think that's what I did. So I wanted to move into an architecture, so I did TOGAF, right? Because that kind of indicates on your resume that that's where you want to go, and you understand the methodology and the framework around architecture. So it gives you that level set that everyone goes, okay, they get architecture at least from that theoretical point of view. So yeah, I think it is important, especially at the start.
And I guess what was the most challenging transition between the roles? Like, where did you think you had the steepest learning curve?
So the first break into architecture was challenging. I remember sitting there going, how am I going to get from being an ERP specialist into being an architect? So that was, I found, tough. And there's a whole bunch of things that I did, like TOGAF and kind of positioning myself to get into that role. I think once I started as an architect, it was a steep learning curve, right? Because there's a whole lingo around architecture that I didn't quite understand. So, like reference architectures and views and blueprints and building blocks and capability models and things like that, which are all steep learning curve for me. So I'm like, I better upskill in that, because I'm actually an architect now. So I need to know this stuff. I think also connecting with the business is always a bit of a new thing. As a dev, you probably don't connect with the business so much. You're just doing coding, right? You're just given there's a backlog and you work off it. So connecting with the business, I found, is challenging as well. And learning how to create really good diagrams. There's like an art to it. And it's, I think, I learned quickly that if you have not a great looking diagram, people aren't really gonna like resonate with what you're trying to get across. Whereas if you have a really impactful diagram, really, really nicely formatted, really beautiful, easy to understand and get, then I think that people will definitely understand. It's a communication device, right? So I think I found challenging to learn that well.
And I guess that like transition from ERP to the solution architecture role, like, did you just start applying for the roles, or did you have an opportunity to move internally, or like how did that opportunity find you?
Well, it's difficult because I was a contractor then. I wasn't even permanent, right? So I had to think, how can I get a contract role as an architect with no architecture experience? And so what I did, and it's a part of my tips as well, is that I actually started to do architecture work within my existing role, like doing solution designs and learning like all of that kind of stuff. And so on your resume, you can actually put down that you've done that. And then I saw an architecture role. So finally, I actually was moving companies. I'd got a role offered to me and I'd accepted it. And then I saw this architecture role come up in the ERP that I was specializing in. So I'm like, right, it doesn't just happen, right? These jobs don't just come up. So I applied for the role and got it. And then I kind of just took that role. And it's the only time I've ever done that. So it's not great, but I was like, this is so important. It's pivotal in my career to do this role and get into this team and be an architect. So I kind of just didn't do that role. And I said I wasn't going to start and took this other role.
There you go. And I guess how someone who maybe doing like software engineering for a while, like actually being like a developer for quite, I don't know, for 10 years, how do they, I guess, maybe know when it's the right move for them? Like, is there any, yeah.
Well, I think firstly, do they actually understand what an architect role is? Because they might not want to do it. It might not be, they might think about, okay, this is what I think it is, but in real life, it might be something completely different, right? So I think firstly, understand, is that definitely where you want to go? It might sound good, but in reality, it might be completely not what you want to do. So that's really important. But then when I think being a good architect, there's a whole bunch of soft skills required there, as well as technical knowledge, as well as interacting with the business. So those key elements are important, as well as doing what an architect does. So doing solution designs, right? I think, and understanding the architecture of the technology that you work in, and understanding how that all works together and fits together, and understanding things slightly outside the realm of your technology stack as well, and how you integrate with things, and what other, we've chosen this solution as part of our technology stack. What other solutions could we have chosen, or be part of the group that chooses the new technologies and things like that. So when you try and embed those kind of architecture roles and skills into your day-to-day life, essentially, because it's quite closely related to being a software engineer, right? Understanding the technology and how it works.
Was it I guess I don't know, a particular event in your career, then you like, okay, no, the architecture is 100% for me? Or is it more like was a slow process of like, yeah, that makes sense, this makes sense?
When I first got my first architecture role, I said that this is definitely what I want to do. This is definitely, you get to look at new technologies and evaluate them and procure them on behalf of the organization. You get to design solutions and solve business problems, and yeah, it's and do strategies and roadmaps and things like that. That's all. When I started to do it, I thought, this is great. This is really what I want to do.
Yeah, so then it sort of clicked. I guess it's hard to know before you actually do the job.
Yeah, exactly right. And I guess I did a few roles as a project manager. I thought, that's not really what I want to do. And then I was a business analyst. I was like, that's not really what I want to do either. So, and I thought, okay, what makes sense from what I do today as an engineer or a developer? And then it's kind of I thought it was a natural progression anyway.
Yeah, makes sense. I guess we also wanted to talk about who is these people as well. You know, we're talking about enterprise architect, but what actually makes a good enterprise architect? I know at the moment, if you ask architect to describe what they do, they can probably talk about it for an hour and argue about the exact description of enterprise architect. But I guess what the main things to pinpoint?
I think so. This is something that I saw on LinkedIn actually, and I follow this architect called Kevin Donovan, and he posts these little kind of cartoons around architecture, and I thought this was really good, because I think if you talk to people that don't do architecture and like, what do you think architecture is? It's drawing boxes and lines, right? That's it, and that's kind of a little part of what we do as an architect. But then, if you look at what he thinks an architect does, everything from managing stakeholders to gathering requirements to there's an element of risk and compliance and cybersecurity to designing solutions to managing technical debt and governance, and yeah, it goes on and on and on, right? So it's actually quite a lot more than probably what people think. And I think if I've taken a bit of a stab in terms of what I think an architect does, and I think it's different depending on, if you're an infrastructure architect or a network architect, then you're really focused in that domain and you're really focused on designing network solutions or infrastructure solutions. But there's an element of this in most architecture roles anyway, and an enterprise architect is probably more business facing versus a technology or infrastructure architect is very down in the infrastructure and designing solutions around that space. But there's a real big part of managing stakeholders and influencing and essentially selling, right? You're selling your solution to the business, saying, hey, invest this money into building this solution or implementing this strategy. So that's really, really important. And being their trusted advisor, you are a technical leader, and part of the job is to advise them on, hey, I can see your business problem over here, and this is what we need to do from a technology standpoint to help meet that business need or problem. A lot of consulting is kind of a thing which is a repetitive thing. I think being a good consultant and presentation skills is really important. I found presenting, I'm really nervous at presenting. I don't like it generally. So it was something I had to really work on, being able to present, because you find yourself presenting a lot, right? As an architect, because you're presenting a paper or you're presenting a design or you're in governance and all this kind of stuff. So I found that really tough. Doing things like interacting with vendors and doing like commercial discussions with them as well, aligning to frameworks, developing strategies and roadmaps and capability models. This is kind of like EA, enterprise architecture kind of things. Yeah, I mean, there's many things, but I think the last point, sometimes you have to just step into another role, right? Because I was doing a project in the UK. So I was a cloud architect. We were implementing, massive AWS platform. And my boss said, Darryn, can you stop being an architect for 3 months and go and lead this stream of work over here and be a project manager? And I was like, okay, sure. So sometimes you just have to step out of your day job and go into a different job for a bit of time to help out. So you got to get stuck in, right? As an architect, I find it's not just theory and drawing pictures. It's actually getting and driving delivery and getting things done as well.
Beyond Cloud asking if it's interactive or pre-recorded. It is interactive. You can ask questions. So if you have any questions, you can definitely do it. And I'm not sure about my microphone, so maybe some settings. But I don't know, Darren's my sound. This seems okay for you.
It's okay.
Okay, let's see. Let's see if
I don't
my
know.
microphone
Well,
will be
you
working
could
or
be
just
an AI Yana. Are you an AI Yana?
yeah, now I'm real. Here we go. I'm definitely real. Would be good, to have a AI Yana who just like goes and do millions of live streams at the same time. Would be really convenient, isn't it? So actually, talking about AI, what is you think the AI affecting architecture roles right now? Like, what's the main I guess what's the main change coming in the architecture?
Yeah, I think two things kind of jump to mind there. But when we use AI tools at work, and it's actually making life easier, the research easier, like getting frameworks created or doing design documents or evaluating things. The research and all the things which productivity it helps at, but it's going to help pretty much everyone. So that's a positive. I think understanding it is really important, right? It's emerging technology, so being on the forefront, and we have the business coming to us and saying we want to do this in AI, so you need to understand what solutions to propose and and even the governance around it. So what are the privacy implications of what you're doing, or what's the cybersecurity implications of what you're doing, or ethics as well, and making sure that we have humans in the loop and things like that. So understanding that technology and kind of the operating model and everything that goes around it. And it's all emerging. Like, so I don't think people are trying to grasp, people are implementing things, but they don't realize that, as because it's so new, we don't have the proper kind of guardrails in place or regulation in place at the moment. So you're kind of just feeling our way through it, right? So yeah, being on top of that new technology is really important.
Yeah, we all know the old saying now. It's not the AI gonna replace you. It's people who are using AI gonna replace you, and you can definitely be more more productive with a lot of your tasks when you are using AI smart and especially in the repetitive things and
And I
research
think
and summaries.
because of all the the soft skills involved with being an architect, it's hard to replace that with AI, right? You can't build a relationship with stakeholders or influence them or sell an idea or help them solve their problems easier with AI. It's kind of difficult. So that's why I think architecture won't immediately be replaced by AI, but who knows, right? What's going to happen in the future?
Yes, it's always those people who are saying that's it. We're all gonna be in minimal income, and all the roles will be gone. And there's always these people who are saying the AI is just another calculator. So it's probably gonna be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But I guess we're all just waiting to see.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see if the benefits live up to the hype, right? It's like cloud. Did the benefits live up to the hype now that we've done cloud for so long? Maybe for some people it has, maybe for some people it hasn't.
Yeah. Okay, let's I guess talk through about a few tips. I think we did mention a few things for I guess people looking to do the move. But I guess what's the main especially like I guess coming back to the knowledge and learnings and education, I guess what's the main thing skills people need to focus on if they really sort of confident that they want to move to architecture? And also I guess the question is roughly when you're planning that transition, how long does it take? Like if you're realistic, you've been doing mostly focusing on I guess the coding and stuff. Like realistically, if you want to move to architectural, like how long do you need? Like 6 months, a year, 2 years? Like what's
Well, that's a hard answer because everyone is different. So some people might be ready to go straight away, and some people might need to invest time in certain aspects of their soft skills or technical skills and things like that. So it really depends, and it's also opportunity as well. So an opportunity might present itself even though you're not ready. You just grab it, right? You go for it. So yeah, there's so many factors involved there, and part of it's kind of maneuvering yourself in where you are today and trying to get yourself into that architecture work, and being best buddies with the architects and trying to do work with them, right? So I mean, so if you look at networking, building close relationships with architects and ask them to mentor you, and people at my organization are doing that now. Volunteering to do work. Hey, you can do work for me for free. That'd be amazing, right? So, and you get to learn how to be an architect. So I would happily teach people to do architecture work, because like everyone, there's lots of work to do and probably not enough resources to do it, right? So that is really important, getting yourself in with the right crowd, understanding them, and kind of stepping up. So we're looking at to build architects across the business in the technology areas anyway. So it's a perfect opportunity for anyone that wants to step up into architecture to kind of grasp that. I think some other tips around knowledge. So you understand where your soft skills and technical skill gaps are, right? So like me, I terrible at presenting. I didn't know anything about it, cyber or networking. So I did training and practice, and anything I could kind of read about it and trying to uplift my skills and knowledge in that area. Really important. Yeah, do some hands-on stuff, do training, certifications, read, like understand new technologies, build a training and education plan. So I built myself a training and education plan when I wanted to transition to be an architect. So I like, where are my gaps? What training? And I did research in all the training courses which were free and I paid for, and I kind of right, I need to do TOGAF and ITIL, and I need to do cybersecurity this, and I need to do networking that, and here's other gaps. I need to work on my presentation skills. So I joined like a presenting group to help in that area. I think, like I said about work experience, try and embed architecture work into your work. You're a developer, right? You work in the technical landscape. It should be fairly easy to do some architectural work, because it's all about building a roadmap or building a plan, building a strategy, designing a system, understanding how you're going to integrate with those systems. So in all parts, you're going to touch something around architecture. I think the opportunities, like for example, there was an opportunity to present at our town hall not that long ago, and I put my hand up to do it just to practice my presentation skill, because I know that if you don't practice it, it's like any kind of muscle, you kind of lose it, right? You got to work on it and practice it. So those kind of opportunities I look for, and I try to practice my skills. Look for career opportunities to get you to your goal. Sometimes you have to sideways move. So I was an architect. I wanted to move to a different company that didn't have any architecture roles. They said you can be a tech lead. So I kind of moved out of architecture, but then as the tech lead, I just did what an architect does anyway. And someone saw me and said, hey, do you want to be the architect for the digital channels program? I was like, yes, I do. Thank you very much. So it's kind of getting yourself seen by the right people, moving your career in the right way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think also that's another thing, the titles could be really confusing in general too. Because often we do, as you mentioned, like as a tech lead, you might be doing those architecture tasks as well. So, and there is a lot of, I guess, roles where people do part of those enterprise architecture and just, I don't know, like things, and the title could be completely different, especially for people coming from the business side. They're not even realizing that they're already doing those tasks that related to architecture and those, I guess, soft skills, presentation, stakeholder management, communicating the technical information to non-technical stakeholders. All of this already sort of can lead to the
absolutely
architecture roles.
Yeah, and even if you're doing the architecture role as well, and work within architecture, and you're kind of moving in that direction, maybe ask to see if you can get your title changed as well, right? And then you're an architect, and then it's easier to get your next role. So there's kind of things you can do in that space as well, which I think one of my teammates did that. Or like I did, my title was something completely different. I just did an architecture role because that was my previous role, and they just moved me into that role because they saw that I could do it.
Yeah. And I know, like, sometimes, we're talking about, we don't want to get caught in the titles. But when building your career, building your resume, and the titles, unfortunately, quite important, just simply for that for that search, for just simply for recruiters to understand what you do, because, like, not everyone will be, if you're someone looking for the architect and there's no word architect in your resume,
Yeah.
unfortunately your resume probably not get picked up. And it's like, it just no one's fault. It just, I guess, the reality, then, unless you're explaining to someone that you're already doing these things, you need to make sure that it is in your description and your titles.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'll tell you an interesting story there. So I was so in the UK, I was a cloud architect. I was a contractor, and they offered me the role to be the head of cloud, the Cloud Center of Excellence there, which is predominantly architecture function, but really focused on public cloud like AWS, Azure, etc. And my boss said, like, we'll offer you this permanent role. And he said, what do you want your title to be? And I go, I don't care. And he's like, nope. He goes, it really matters. It really matters, because for when you want to get your next role, you need to make sure that your title will springboard you into that role. And so he goes, what we need to put, okay, I goes, I want you to be the global head of the Cloud Center of Excellence, right? And so that's what my title was, and it's springboarded me into other roles, right? So if it was me, like, I guess I didn't think much about it, but it is really important what that title is. And yeah, it will definitely help you get the next role.
Yeah. Joanne is asking, actually, are we talking about software architecture or data architecture? Here we go. Maybe it's a good, give some definitions.
I'm just talking about architecture in general, right? So you could be a data architect, integration architect, infrastructure network architect, solution architect, enterprise. There's so many flavors of architects. So I'm not really talking about one specific kind of architecture, but there's elements, like I said, if you're like a network architect, you're going to be really techie into the networking and focus on those solution designs. If you're an enterprise architect, you're going to be more softer skills, focusing on the business and helping them solve kind of strategic issues. So it depends on where you want to go, but as a technical engineer, you probably move into a technical architecture role and then move up into a more business facing role. But as you move up, your soft skills will need to increase dramatically. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yes, yeah. And the thing is, again, that kind of getting caught in the titles, it is could be sometimes hard to define, because the title not always like reflect what you're doing, but exactly what you mentioned before, you need to be strategic about, thinking about the title and what you're putting it. It's could be, more important than you think sometimes.
Definitely is more important than I thought it was. And it is. People really, they look at that in your resume, right? And they would like, okay, they were an architect. Even if you were called something different and did architecture work, they will probably like discount you, right? It will probably fail through the ATSs when it reviews your resume, because you just don't have that keyword architect. So yeah, it is important.
Yeah, I know it is. I guess the tricky part, but even then, people looking for recruiters using LinkedIn Recruiter, for example, always like the paid version, and if they're doing the search, most of the recruiters will start with the most obvious keywords and put like the title. For example, if they're looking for the enterprise architect, they put the current title, enterprise architect, most likely into the search. And when the search comes up, recruiters only basically can see your headline, your titles, and the university you went. So they won't see your about section or like a details what you've done. So you simply just won't come up in the search if you didn't have that exact title, which is could be tricky, I guess, if you a software engineer who trying to move to architectural.
Yeah, I mean, I recently seen CVs that come across my table for review, and they have the title of architect, and then I look at what they've done, and nothing's to do with architecture. So I'm like, okay, they've just changed the title. So it's got to reflect, right? And that's why it's important to try and do some architecture work as part of your job.
Yeah, that's a hack that. The thing is, the sad thing that hack will work to go through ATS system, and it can work to go through like some rounds. But yeah, but obviously if you've done none of the architecture work, that trick not gonna work. Okay, so we already 40 minutes into our discussion, and guys, if you have any questions to Darryn, that's, I guess, the your chance to ask. We probably have time for one or two more questions. And I guess one more question from me. In terms of, I guess, what was the most unexpected maybe moment in your career? Maybe you moved to some role and you were like, that's not that I was thinking it's gonna be, or like.
Yeah, actually, I worked for a company, and they said, okay, it's going to be like an head of architecture role, and I was like, great, sounds good. But then when I got there, I had to, in addition to architecture, it was, oh, you need to own risk, and you need to own data governance, and you need to own cybersecurity. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's kind of architecture plus a whole bunch of other capabilities, right? So that was kind of like, oh, so I had to quickly learn how to do all of those things. Like, so yeah, how to do risk management and how to do data governance. So those things are kind of were brand new to me. So it's kind of, you need to pick them up along the way, right? So that's another thing as an architect, you need to be able to adapt and learn things quickly, and especially around new technologies that you don't understand or don't know. I think being able to pick them up is really important.
Yeah, that's, I guess, coming back to the same sort of discussion we have, that title sometimes means nothing too, because you being as a head of architecture in one company, you're doing one thing, and then you can move to another company, and that means something else. So it's in a different company.
Yeah, that's yeah, and I think, yeah, different titles mean different things in different organizations. So yeah, it's kind of understanding that is really important.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm just checking out our comments, make sure I didn't miss any questions. And I guess the one thing that we do every time at the end of our live stream is the quick giveaway. So the virtual coffee with Darryn. I'm going to make the announcement. I'm going to make the announcements for next week's stream. And while I'm doing that, Darryn, you can have a look at the comments and see if anyone pop out there for the virtual coffee chat. So next week is the 29th of October. We're gonna actually run a workshop with Aditya about LinkedIn makeover. And we're going to talk about, the specifically when you move to Australia and then you're new to Australia, how to actually edit your LinkedIn to make sure your application can stand out and you can connect with the local recruiters and make some local connections. So if you are looking for your new tech role in Australia, definitely join our workshop next Wednesday. And there's a few more things coming. The weekend after, we're going to talk about the cybersecurity. And of course, we have a bunch of the tech walking events as well. We have a big tech walk in Sydney this Sunday, the 26th of October. We have a tech walk in Adelaide. On the 1st of November, we have a tech walk in Wollongong. That's a new one. Here you go. So Wollongong people, there is a tech walk for you as well. And Melbourne, as usual, in Albert Park too. So there's just so many things going on. So I'll definitely recommend you to keep an eye. It's all posted in my meetup group or tech working LinkedIn group as well. And Darryn,
Yeah.
have you choose who's gonna do a podcast with you?
Yeah, it's at Jeevan88888.
Jivan, here you go. The question about the architecture and data architecture. Jivan, I think we connected on LinkedIn, but I'm not 100% sure. Please make sure we connected on LinkedIn before, so that I can make sure that you connect with Darryn as well. And Darryn, like before we finish the stream, the question is, okay, so if we summarize everything we talk about today, and we want to give just the one advice to someone working as a developer right now, thinking to move to the architectural. So if you summarize the advice in just 1 minute, what they need to do right now?
Learn what it is to be an architect and start doing it in your job. And I think become best friends with the architects in your organization, right? And help them out. And I think opportunities will start appearing, right? Especially, if you're already doing that role, people see that you do a great job and the value you add, then they're more likely to automatically give you a role or help you move into that direction. That's really important. I think the skills is important as well, and the soft skills, and recognizing where your gaps are and filling those up.
Yeah, and I think we often underestimate how important networking within our organization is. We often think like, oh, like we'll, gonna reach out to other people. We're gonna, I don't know, reach out to recruiters and things like that. Whereas, especially if you're working for the big organization, where just so much networking can be done within the organization, within different teams. Like you can actually discover some opportunities and learning without, without even reaching out externally. And also, I forgot to mention one more event. There is the conference that will be in Melbourne in November, which is specifically for architecture. ADA conference on the 14th of November. I do have like the promo code for this one. So if you want to attend this one, you can put Yana15 and you get a 15% discount. Check it out as well. There's so many actually different events in Melbourne at the moment. There's a BOps tonight. I'm going to be there in half an hour if someone's going to BOps in Melbourne Stadium. And there is API days next week as well, which is quite a few, I think 3 tickets left to that one. So definitely check it out. There is quite a few things coming. And yeah, don't underestimate the power of networking. It can bring you some interesting opportunities sometimes when you don't expect. And Darryn, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. John saying thank you.
Welcome.
And we'll make sure that he'll book that virtual coffee chat. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And thank you, Darryn, again. And I'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks, Shana.
Thank you. Thank you.